Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're cracking open your sources on a really popular topic, the box truck business.
It seems to be everywhere right now.
It really is. So our mission today is to get past all the glossy ads,
Yeah.
the be your own boss stuff,
Mhm.
and really extract the crucial, and let's be honest, often brutal truths about the finances, the compliance, and the operations you need to know to actually stay profitable.
And that's so necessary because the stakes here, they're just shockingly high.
How high are we talking?
We're looking at a sector that feels really accessible. You think, I'll just buy a truck, right? But the data, it just screams a warning.
Okay.
Industry reports show that over 85% of new trucking startups fail within their first 18 months.
85%.
Yeah.
That can't just be about finding loads. That suggests a much deeper problem.
It is. It's a failure of systematic market research. It's a failure of financial planning and just a lack of operational discipline.
It's a true test of entrepreneurship, not just driving.
Absolutely. You have to treat this like the highly competitive business it is. And the place to start is, well, it's where most new operators fail right out of the gate. Undercapitalization.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's do the money talk first.
Yeah.
What does it really truly cost to get into this, and what does the income actually look like once you're up and running?
Right. So the initial capital you need it's a lot broader than just the price tag on the truck itself.
I'm sure.
If you're just looking at the vehicle and the immediate legal setup, you're probably in the range of $20,000 to maybe $75,000.
Okay.
But that is only part of the story.
You mentioned working capital earlier.
Yeah.
When we factor that in, what's the real all-in number?
The total investment you really need. It starts at a conservative $44,000 for a used truck operation.
44,000. Okay.
But it can go all the way up to an aggressive $144,000 if you're buying new and you have robust reserves.
Mhm.
And that reserve it's your lifeline.
Wait, hold on a second. 144,000 to start a business where, as I think we're about to find out, the profit margins are razor thin.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a terrible return on investment if you don't scale up immediately. What is driving those initial costs so high?
It's two line items, and they surprise everyone. First is commercial insurance.
Of course.
For a new authority with no safety history, your first-year premiums alone can hit anywhere from, say, $9,000 up to $18,000.
And you pay that whether you have a single load or not.
Whether you move an inch or not. And second is that working capital we talked about, since most brokers pay you on 30-day terms.
Right, so you're waiting a month for your money.
At least. So you need $5,000 to maybe $30,000 just sitting there. Set aside to cover fuel, your own pay, maintenance, all while you're waiting for those first invoices to clear.
That completely reframes the cash flow equation. You're basically running on fumes or your own savings for weeks.
For a long time, yes.
Okay, so let's hit that crucial distinction you mentioned. Revenue potential versus net profit reality. Because the top line numbers are really deceptive, aren't they?
Oh, they are. The gross revenue potential looks fantastic on paper. A single truck can typically generate between $200,000 and $250,000 a year.
That sounds great.
It does. I mean, weekly, you could be looking at a gross of $4,000 to $5,000 if you're running, say, 1,200 to 2,000 miles efficiently.
That sounds like a thriving business.
Yeah.
But what's left? What's the actual net profit after you pay for fuel, maintenance, insurance, everything?
And that's the gap where reality just hits you like a truck. The industry data shows that most trucking companies, they achieve really low net profit margins, like 2 to 8%.
2 to 8.
And for the single truck owner-operator who's driving their own equipment, the average is just 5.6% net profit.
So let me get this straight. If you manage to gross $200,000,
Yeah.
your business only actually made $11,200 in pure profit.
That's it.
That's a tiny return for managing a huge expensive asset. So how does the owner actually make enough money to live?
You have to think of the owner's income as two different buckets.
Okay.
You get that small business net profit, the 5.6%, but you also have to pay yourself for the work you're doing, which is driving.
Ah, so you pay yourself a driver's wage.
You must. You pay yourself the market rate for a driver, which is somewhere around 55 to 65 cents per mile.
I see. So the total annual compensation, the driver wages, plus the tiny business profit,
Yeah.
that's what gets you into that $50,000 to $150,000 range.
Exactly. You're basically buying yourself a management job that's layered on top of a very high-skill driving job.
And because those margins are so incredibly tight, survival depends on knowing one single non-negotiable number.
your true cost per mile, your CPM.
How important is tracking that CPM?
It is everything. It typically ranges from $1.20 to $1.60. If you do not know that precise number for your truck on your routes, you are basically just gambling on load boards.
You're flying blind.
Completely. The biggest difference between the 85% who fail and the 15% who succeed is simply that the successful ones know their number and they consistently book loads above that threshold. You have to have the discipline to say no to freight that looks busy but is actually losing you money.
And rejecting freight brings us straight to strategy, right? If you're just living on the spot market, taking whatever you can get.
You're inviting disaster. The sources also pointed out that another huge cause of failure is leaning too heavily on one customer. Maybe 60 to 80% of your revenue comes from one place.
That dependency is terrifying. One bad phone call and your business is gone.
It collapses instantly, so you have to focus on finding specialized niches that command premium rates. That's what shields you from that volatile spot market.
So what are some of those profitable niches for box trucks right now?
E-commerce and retail delivery are huge. These jobs, they're not just point A to point B. They often require scheduled, high-touch services. People call it white glove service.
So like inside delivery, maybe some light assembly?
Exactly. Removing the old appliance, hauling away the debris. That complexity, that commands premium rates. We're talking maybe $550 a day for a 26-foot box truck making a dozen local stops.
I also saw Amazon Relay come up a lot. Is that a good place to start for guaranteed volume?
It provides fantastic volume, but you have to be qualified.
What does that mean?
It means having the right equipment, 16-foot or 26-foot box trucks, and they have to have a functional tuck-under lift gate, and then the mandatory insurance coverage.
Which is a lot, I'm guessing.
It is $1 million in auto liability and $100,000 in cargo coverage. It's a stable source of freight, but the barrier to entry is pretty high on equipment and compliance.
It's also interesting just how much the rates differ based on the vehicle. You see box trucks spot rates, maybe $1.50 to $3.20 a mile.
Right.
But a smaller Sprinter van, because it's so much more fuel efficient, only gets $1 to maybe $1.50 a mile.
And that just underlines the whole point. You have to match your equipment to the freight you're trying to haul. The capacity gives you that rate leverage.
So let's talk about the key to getting off that volatile spot market, securing dedicated freight. You mentioned a really fascinating tactic in the sources called the 10% rule. Walk us through that.
This is how the really smart carriers build stability. So when a broker gives you a load, they're typically marking up the rate they pay you by about 10 to 15% when they bill the shipper.
Okay, that's their margin.
That's their cut. So let's say you run a specific route for a broker, maybe Houston to Dallas. If you run that lane successfully 3 or 4 times, you've proven you're reliable, you're on time, professional, paperwork's clean.
You've essentially road tested your services for them.
Exactly. At that point, you approach the shipper directly. You know what they're paying the broker, roughly. Wow. You offer to take the freight direct. You say, look, I will reduce your current shipping cost by 10%, which immediately saves them money. And you tell them, this will also increase my revenue by 10%.
That is genius. So the shipper saves money, and you capture the margin the broker was taking. It's a win-win.
It's a true win-win, and it's how you lock in those dedicated arrangements. That is the gold standard for box truck profitability.
Okay, this is all great. It's clear you can't make money unless you know your CPM and you find good freight. But all of that just vanishes if you get hit with a big regulatory fine. So let's talk about what you called the compliance wall, because the complexity here is steep and the penalties for failure are severe.
This is where the paperwork absolutely protects your business. Even these medium-duty trucks, they fall under heavy federal regulation. If your truck is 10,001 pounds gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR, and you cross state lines...
You need a US DOT number.
Mandatory.
Right.
And if you're hauling freight for other people, a for-hire carrier, you also need an MC authority.
Right, that's the authority to operate.
Correct. It's about a $300 one-time filing fee. Though, one little note, the FMCSA is trying to streamline things. By October of 2025, they plan to use the US DOT number as the sole identifier.
But before your authority is even granted, there's that one weird piece of paperwork.
Yeah.
The BOC3. What is that?
The BOC3, the process agent designation. It's mandatory for interstate carriers. It just means you have to officially name a legal agent in every state you operate in who can accept legal documents for you.
So if you get sued in another state, they have someone to serve the papers to.
Exactly. It's cheap, $10 to $75. But if you forget it, your whole application just stalls.
Okay, now the big point of confusion I always see, the CDL versus the non-CDL rule. Most of these 26-foot box trucks fall just under that 26,000-pound GVWR limit,
They do.
which means you can drive them with a standard license.
That's true, and that accessibility is what makes box trucking so appealing. But, and this is a critical distinction, non-CDL status does not exempt you from the safety requirements if the truck is over 10,000 pounds and operates interstate.
Okay, so what are those non-negotiable requirements?
Even for a non-CDL driver, you must maintain a full driver qualification file or a DQF.
A DQF.
It's a mandatory file that proves the driver is qualified. It has to include annual motor vehicle record checks and a valid DOT physical, the medical examiner certificate.
Which is good for up to 2 years.
Up to 24 months. So if you hire drivers, you have to be on top of this paperwork.
So the paperwork burden is still there, even without the CDL test. What about monitoring their time on the road? Hours of service.
Hours of service, or HOS, limits are rigidly enforced. The main rules are the 14-hour shift limit and the 11-hour driving limit within that shift.
And the electronic logging device, the ELD mandate, applies here too.
It does for drivers who have to maintain records of duty status, but there is a key exemption here that many box truck operators can use.
Okay.
It's the short haul exemption. If you operate within a 150 air mile radius of your home base and return there every day, you might not need an ELD, which simplifies compliance a lot.
And what if a new owner just skips some of this stuff to save a little money? What are the penalties?
Big mistake. Within the first 12 months, every new motor carrier faces a mandatory safety audit. And the fines for non-compliance they're steep.
How steep?
They range from $1,100 to $16,000 per violation.
Per violation.
For violation. A missing DQF document, an HOS infraction. These can instantly wipe out that tiny 5.6% net profit margin for the entire year. Compliance isn't a cost, it's mandatory financial defense.
That really puts the risk into focus.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift to operational discipline. This is all about protecting that investment and squeezing every bit of efficiency out, because every dollar saved goes right to that tiny profit margin.
Straight to the bottom line.
Let's start with preventive maintenance.
PM is a core risk mitigation strategy. It's not optional. Studies show that a good PM schedule reduces your overall repair costs by 20 to 30% compared to just fixing things when they break.
And it prevents breakdowns.
More importantly, yes, it can prevent up to 80% of those unexpected load-losing breakdowns on the side of the road. You have to budget $500 to $1,000 a month just for maintenance reserves.
And we're talking about simple things here, right? Like oil changes.
Simple things at a commercial scale, yes. An oil and filter change on a modern diesel can cost $150 to $350, and it has to be done reliably every 10 to 25,000 miles.
And if you miss one?
If you miss one service interval, you could be looking at a catastrophic engine failure that costs tens of thousands of dollars. It would wipe out years of that tiny net profit.
And second only to maintenance is fuel. It's your biggest variable cost. You can't control the price at the pump, but you can control driver behavior.
Definitely. Fuel is running about 37 to 50 cents per mile, so training drivers on simple efficiency rules makes a huge impact.
Like what?
Like speed. Every 10 miles per hour you go over 65 reduces your fuel economy by up to 27%. That's just massive waste.
Wow.
And idling, just leaving the engine running, that burns about 1 gallon of fuel every single hour. Operational discipline is about plugging all those little leaks.
So finally, what key performance indicators, what KPIs should you be glued to make sure you're not just driving around, but actually driving profitably?
You need to focus on 3 core metrics. First is your loaded miles percentage.
Yeah, okay.
You have to make sure that more than 85% of your total miles are generating revenue. If you're under that, you have a strategy problem.
And the second?
Deadhead miles. These are your empty miles. You have to keep them below 15% of your total. Every empty mile still costs you 47 to 70 cents in expenses.
You're just burning free money at that point. And the third KPI?
On-time delivery rate. This has to be above 95%. This is the metric your customers care about the most. Hitting that number is what lets you keep customers and get those premium contracts we talked about.
This whole deep dive really brings the full picture into view. The profitability of a box truck business. It doesn't hinge on how busy you are. It hinges on precise, disciplined execution of all these systems.
Exactly. It's the difference between speculation and strategy. The path to long-term viability means you have to be an excellent accountant and safety officer first, and a carrier second. You have to know the numbers and follow the paperwork.
So we've learned success really hinges on stability. And the sources pointed out that driver turnover is a huge cost, $10,000 to $15,000 per driver. So here's the final thought for you. If a new operator only has time to perfect one core system in their first 90 days, which one offers the single highest guarantee of long-term viability? Is it rigorous compliance, knowing their true CPM, or building a strong driver retention program?
Wow. If I'm forced to choose just one, it has to be knowing your true cost per mile.
Why that one?
Because if you master your CPM, you ensure every single load you take is actually profitable enough to cover the mandatory non-negotiable costs of compliance and the high costs of retaining good people. Without knowing if a load is profitable, all your other efforts, compliance, retention, you're just building systems on stinking sand.